Before I begin, I must warn you that this video contains spoilers for the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. Although, if I'm keeping it a hundo, if you're complaining about spoilers for a show that came out before I was even born, then you're a little bitch. If you are, in fact, a little bitch, then please stop watching. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this video. On the surface, Neon Genesis Evangelion is about some kids who are piloting giant robots. However, unlike typical shows in this genre, Evangelion primarily focuses on analyzing the psyche of its main characters, examining in great detail each individual's motivations, fears, and insecurities. Probably so they don't have to spend money animating a bunch of fight scenes. At its core, Evangelion is ultimately a coming-of-age story, where its protagonist, Shinji Ikari, is caught between the desire to return to a state of childlike innocence and the need to accept the responsibilities of the real adult world. At the start of the show, Shinji is, in many ways, acting like a child. Much like anime fans in the real world, he spends a lot of time running away from adult responsibilities. When the city of Tokyo 3 is attacked by a monster known as an angel, Shinji's Eva 01 is the only thing that can stop it. Rather than confront the angel, however, he runs and hides, like a bitch. By choosing to throw a tantrum, Shinji of course endangers the rest of the city. This selfishness would be unacceptable for an adult, but it's actually pretty typical behavior for an adolescent who wouldn't fully understand the extent to which his actions can affect others. Shinji's relative immaturity is also shown through his interactions with other characters, especially women. He is, to use today's terminology, maidenless. The conversations he has with the female characters in the show usually feel superficial and awkward to the point of being cringeworthy. You never feel like he has formed a genuine connection with any of the girls that he interacts with. Nevertheless, he still perceives them as objects of sexual desire, whether consciously or unconsciously. This contrast between desiring women and not being emotionally mature enough to connect with them at all further illustrates the fact that Shinji, while no longer an innocent child, is not quite an adult yet either. There's no fulfilling romance here. What we get instead is teenage fumbling and awkwardness. The end result is that, despite all the nudity and sexual innuendo that is in the show, Evangelion is one of the least sexy pieces of media that I've ever seen, and anyone who thinks otherwise is probably not allowed within 100 yards of a school zone. Overall, Shinji's childish behavior is a far cry from the qualities embodied by our typical protagonist. This causes a lot of viewers to dislike him, seeing him as being whiny and entitled. But I think that this criticism is unjustified. Keep in mind that Shinji is 14 and being asked to save the world. When I was 14, I was obsessed with posting dank memes on Reddit. The point is, none of us are really in a position to judge Shinji too harshly. Anyone who has experienced teenage angst can relate to where he's coming from, even if we don't necessarily agree with his actions. Shinji also becomes more and more sympathetic as the show goes on, since it becomes obvious that he is dealing with some sort of past trauma. It's eventually revealed that the source of this trauma is the death of his younger brother several years ago. He sees people's indifference to his brother's death as proof that everyone besides himself is cruel and superficial, which, ironically, causes him to push away the only people who care about him and can help him. This downward spiral sets the stage for the show's closing act. The end of Evangelion is essentially a long, surreal dream sequence. Shinji imagines himself standing on the edge of a cliff, with thousands of children running towards him. He sees himself as a martyr figure, the catcher in the rye who saves all these children from falling off the edge. You see, this video was never actually about anime. You really thought that I would make a whole video about Neon Genesis Evangelion? You absolute fool, you fucking idiot. You buffoon. You literal moron. You cretin. I was actually making a video about mid-20th century American literature this whole time.